Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Speedcast. Today, I'm your host, Hans Turn. Today, we're going to turn our hands to something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, the GPD Win5. I'm so excited to talk about this. Clef, I'm sure you are too. You missed the last one.
Yep.
We've had a lot that's come out since the last time we've talked about it. So, why don't you all introduce yourselves for everybody?
Hey guys, I'm Clef.
Hey, I'm Nelly.
Ayo, Yokoso. You get a backpack, and you get a backpack, and everybody gets a backpack.
Everybody gets a backpack. By the end of this, we'll all be wanting backpacks, I'm sure. So, yeah, like I said before, we talked about this the first time. We were barely anything. We were looking at prototypes, speculating this, speculating that. Now we've got the full picture of everything. Now that that's all out and that's all out in the open, what are we thinking? Are we on board yet with me, or am I still sitting on an island here? Start with you, Clef. What do you think?
I like the "Are we on board with me?" Okay, well, yeah, I will definitely answer the question, but before I do, and maybe giving a hint into where I'm heading, I do need to officially administer apologies to GPD, as if they would ever see that. But GPD, I yeah, okay. So my apologies, and I'll explain why. Look, the hype is real. GPD, I think, are potentially hitting a home run with this even before it's in people's hands. Um, the power that this device had, or at least that some of us knew it had, was always compelling. That was never up for discussion. It was always compelling. The whole backpack thing, now that we've seen it in hands of other creators like the Fox, like ETA Prime, it helped me understand how it works. What do you sacrifice? What do you benefit from? All those things. So it gives us a lot more perspective. And look, I guess I'm way more open now to the idea than I was before. Now, is that going to be enough for me to get one? We'll talk about it through the episode, I'm sure. But all things considered, it looks compelling and exciting, and I like what they're doing. So my apologies. Yep.
What about you, GG? You on board yet?
Is this board a surfboard to the island, or do we also get to take backpacks there? Because here's what I'm gonna say. Unlike Clef, I'm not directly issuing any apologies because I do already have a GPD device, and I do think hardware-wise they're a good company. I will issue a recorrection though. I said before I think the battery is kind of jank. I still stand by that. I think it is kind of jank. However, I do think there's also other benefits that maybe we're not even seeing here. And the GPD devs and R&D people were like, galaxy brain on us. And what I mean by that is I think when you're using the battery pack, it's not the most elegant of solutions. I think we can generally agree on that. However, there is something in the future, especially long term, that a lot of us don't really consider, especially if we're just casual users and not like Nelly, who's willing to break apart a device and fix every little thing inside. And here's what I mean. We talked about like Legion Go before, and we talked about pricing. That's a whole other issue. But like you can see if you look in the Legion Go subreddit, people are like removing their batteries, and even Clef, whose Legion Go is not powering up, like he might have to do something like that with this battery not being built in. Surprise, that's never a concern for you, actually, right? You just replace the battery, and then it's always connected to mains or something. You know, I don't know if they thought of this intentionally. Part of me kind of thinks that maybe they did. I still think that there needs to be something to kind of protect those pins when they're exposed, but I mean, yeah, I'm surprised. Like just that level of ingenuity alone, this is the kind of innovation that we want.
Can I just say I've never got off this board? Like I actually like the backpack. I've always liked the backpack. I've watched you guys from afar. I'm like, why are you guys upset about the backpack? Like I'm okay with it. I have a PSP. I crack that thing open. I'm like, new battery, here we go. Like I have a charger on the side that just charges it. So I always have an extra battery that's fully charged. Like this is brilliant to me. And most of my gaming is actually just plugged in. So if I'm not using a battery bypass or 80% battery save mode, like I'm not killing my battery. I'm just taking it out. Like it's not even there. So to me, that's a huge benefit. And like, yeah, I'm gonna get an extra battery. I'll get a few extra batteries, all the batteries. And someone's like, why are you selling this handheld 5 years later or whatever with all these batteries? I'm like, trust me, you're gonna love that there's this many batteries. And this thing is still gonna be better than the Steam Deck. I bet you when it comes out with the Steam Deck 2 or whatever years later, like I bet you this is still gonna be better.
Absolutely.
Can I just add
And
real quick?
oh,
Because I didn't realize, and you're so right. And you know what Gigi said about like yesterday I was watching videos. I was thinking about batteries bloating up, and like all those issues just don't exist with the Win 5. But I gotta put out though that at first, the way I understood it, I didn't realize that for some reason I forgot about the DC barrel jack. And I thought, because you know, you saw that battery pack and you saw that cable that you can also attach to the back. And I thought it was either or. I thought that's how you powered the thing. And I completely forgot about the DC barrel jack. But like you could at least use the DC as you're swapping stuff. And never did I consider that. In fact, Fox even confirmed that you can also power through USB-C. So with all that added data, the battery, yeah, it's more of a flexibility thing now. Whereas before I was like, you know, pitchfork and all. Anyways, I'm sorry.
I don't think that was just you though, Clef. I think they were not. Maybe they didn't communicate that clearly, or you know, people were jumping the shark on that. Because I think to your point, like we didn't look at it as flexible because it was an either or, and it wasn't like an additive bonus type of thing. In this scenario, like you said, theoretically at least, without powering down, you should be able to have the battery pack on and then charge with an external battery. I saw a Billy video, I believe, where you can just run the device off of a 100-watt capable like power delivery, you know, power bank.
mhm.
So if you got like the AO High Starship, which has 144 watt hours in there, like, you know, you can be sitting groovy with like, you know, 60 watts TDP for at least 2 hours, let's say, right? And so
Yep.
that's a, you know, that's a really nice bonus. Just one more thing before Zach reins us in, I'll say about the batteries too. There's some future proofing potential there too. If GPD, again, somehow, I hope you're seeing this and you somehow, like someone floats it to you guys, there's future potential for like expanding this battery setup, not just different battery sizes, larger batteries, but like of the different components of batteries. People are getting, I think, a little bit more apprehensive about having all these, you know, lithium ion batteries around, right? But like
Mhm.
in the future, I don't know how far down the line it would be for like consumer use, but like if you could get like solid state batteries, you know, batteries that are like sodium based, like what they're researching in Japan, like there's a potential to have that as part of the market, sell them as like essentially accessories. You know what I mean?
It's a
Yeah,
huge weight
absolutely.
off the device too, like, just the weight in general, like, not having the battery on there, like, it's so much lighter, like, what a
Yeah.
freeing feeling. Like, I'm gonna go from these
Yeah.
heavy consoles that I'm biking with to like, "Oh, what is this, a one hand? I'm gonna
Well,
one-hand
that's
game with
yeah.
this."
I mean, that's right to your point too. And I mean, like, I know initially, again, just looking at from the outset, and we were, you know, neutral to negative. I think when we talked about it before, but it's like,
Mm.
yeah, it can be very much a freeing aspect of what you're saying. Like, if you put it in your backpack, like I joked about, like, in, you know, do and playing Death Stranding. You know, I'm not a fan of that kind of concept, like in a VR headset, but I understand to like offset the balance or offset the weight to better balance the weight of the device, you know, whether that's on your face or in your hands. That makes sense, especially because you know, let's be realistic, like a lot of us, if we're pushing these AAA or quadruple A games, we're probably plugged into the wall anyway. So like, yeah, I kind of get that now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know that was my biggest concern was really this battery and everything too, but that like screw in whatever, you know, mechanism for that extension cable, like huge game changer for me because I was like, I don't want to play with this weight on here. Although, I mean, if you watch the Fox's video, he says that even with the battery on it, it doesn't even feel that bad. But maybe it's just because he's like Nelly and he's used to having, you know, these batteries
Bulking up
chonked
the
on the back
handheld.
of him.
Lifting all
And
day.
he's like, it's like I took the battery off, and I mean, it's still like 600 grams, which is like a little bit less than an Ally. And he's like, this thing's like comically light, and I'm like, well, that's still a little bit heavy for me, but okay. But no, so I mean, just being able to have that off because that's definitely that's the way I'm going to use it. Pretty much 90% of the time is basically just have that cable permanently attached to it and just kind of set off to the side, you know, within reach or whatever. So, and I was more than concerned about, well, what if I accidentally, unplug it or whatever if I don't have the battery on, but now I don't have to worry about that. I mean, it's screwed in, cable screwed into the thing. I'm not gonna have to worry about the pins, degrading or whatever, because I'll just keep that cable attached all the time. But also to your point, GG, about the protecting those pins, I'd say that's just as easy as, some sort of cover plate, with your own little thumb screws, whatever, screw those in. That way you don't have to worry about that down the road either. But yeah, I think we've been beating this dead horse on the battery for a while. And that was, like I said, that was my biggest hurdle. So now I am just like, let's go. I am all for this thing. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I mean, what other, I guess, changes, other details that have come out, good or bad? I guess, let's start with some of the good. I mean, what is your what's your major selling point, I guess? And we'll go around the horn, and what's everybody's most interest in this device for is? I'll start with you, Nelly.
I just like how much power it is. Like, I'm all about power. If I can get the device with the best chip, the best power in it, like, I'm going to do that for the handheld. I don't love that it's a 7-inch screen. That's not what I love about this. But you know what? I'll deal with it. Like, if that's my only sacrifice for like extreme power, I will do that. But I play plugged in like 95% of the time. So like, this is perfect for me. It's a lighter device. It's got the nice joysticks. It's got the clicky buttons and stuff too, just like the Vita, I believe. And I've always
Mhm.
kind of wanted a device like that that's newer with the more power. So this is like what the PlayStation handheld like should be. Like, if you were gonna get like a PlayStation handheld, like, this is what I would envision it to look like, or to be like. But this is way better because the PC will let us play everything. So for me, this is a really cool device. I'm gonna order one. Like, by the time this video goes live and that campaign is live, like, I'm gonna have to pick one of these up and get on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you at home who don't know, yeah, the campaign will probably be live by the time you're seeing this, because it's 10 a.m. at Universal Time +8 on the 25th, so it's more like 10 p.m. on the West Coast on the 24th,
Yeah, that would be
if I'm doing the math right.
10 p.m. East
Something around
Coast,
there.
7 p.m. West Coast.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect. I'm gonna set an alarm for that.
So yeah, it will be live by the time you see this. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the controller. Like, I'm not a huge controller nerd, but yeah, it seems like everything with this controller, right? You're talking, yeah, this guy. I'll throw it to him here in a second. So, from what I was seeing, like, controller wise, like, this is like this best of everything. Like, let's take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that. We're just gonna put it all together. So you got Vita D-pad, you've got Xbox ABXY buttons, you've got Hall effect triggers with the trigger locks. You've got these new capacitive joysticks, which is supposed to be even more accurate, a better sampling rate, all that, nerd stuff on these capacitive joysticks. And then for everybody that was mad about this Win5 not being like the Win4 with the slidey keyboard and all that, like, you've got a dedicated button to just bring up the virtual keyboard, whether or not you actually like those. I've gotten used to them. I mean, I've had a phone. I mean, do you guys not have phones? Like, every handheld device, Windows, whatever, has had this virtual keyboard, but it's been, at least from my experience, such a pain to bring up on anything. And then it's got a dedicated, let's go back to the desktop button too, which has also been a pain for me to try to do on any device. I mean, you can kind of do the macros, but like, I always forget which ones they are. So like, having dedicated buttons for those as well. Plus, you got a fingerprint sensor in the power button. I mean, I could go on and on about every little button that's on this thing. It just seems like they took everything and just put it all in there. It's a kitchen sink of a controller, at least from my experience. What do you think, Clef? Is this the controller to rule them all, or what?
Well, so I have, in correction to what Gigi said earlier, I happen to have a GPD Win4, a GPD Win Max 2, a GPD Win Mini. So I have a lot of GPD Win devices, but this one is a little larger than the GPD Win4. It has a little bit more of a comfortable curve to hold. And in terms of controls, we have membrane face buttons, and the bumpers are tactile, if I recall. But the hair triggers, we don't really have a whole lot of handhelds. And look, as a controller guy, when hair trigger was first introduced to me, I was like, no way, Jose, I don't want this thing. Like, who wants that? We're going backwards. But after having experienced it, it's like, if I don't have it, I'm pissed now. Because truly, in racing games, I get it. You want your analogs, but if you're playing a shooter, if you're playing a platformer, a Metroidvania, what you want is execution, rapid execution, and a good quality hair trigger will do that for you. And I was so happy when the Fox that doesn't like hair triggers, Carrie, I love you. I used to, not anymore. Anyway, so all joking aside, he did mention that it was clicky triggers, and I was like, oh, thank you, because you have hair stops that just like it shortens the distance and it's all software corrected, but this is a proper button, so you feel an actuation. So I'm super excited for that. And many other things, but the hair trigger I think is a big deal. And capacitive sticks, they're like, yeah, they're pretty good. Honestly, they're quite good. They're like TMR close-ish. For those who know, I'm excited for it. In terms of ergonomics, I'm trying to wrap my head around if I'm gonna get one. That's the thing. Like, I was listening to Nelly, I was listening to you, Hanstern, and you guys are already talking about like having it in your hands. I'm not quite there yet. I get it, and look, I'm excited now more than ever before about the GPD Win5, but yeah, like anyways, you know what? Maybe we can talk about that later. We'll see. But yeah, that's my answer about the controls and everything.
Well, I mean, we got to figure out what it's going to take to get you there, man. I don't know, Gigi. Is there a spec that we're missing here that we haven't talked about yet? I mean, what's gonna do it for everybody? Anybody still on the fence?
That's a really good question. And right before we started recording, Nelly was saying that she wants like, the maximum power. We get it. That's why she wants that's why she was all on board with the Super Max. And it's not because of the iron pumping that she would have to do with her arms with that.
I'm already ready. I'm ready.
Yeah. I think the luxury of this device is that you can go and you can tune the TDP like fairly low. And someone in the comments is probably going to angrily say, "You're a liar, Gigi. You said that this isn't supposed to be for that." The thing is like I mentioned in that video also that the Fox had done testing at like 20 watts. And it's underperforming like the Z1E and the Z2E at that point. But the point is that you can do it. And like this and ETA Prime's video that he also just released was showing some like indie game. I forgot what game it was. And it was showing that it was running around it like 10-ish watts or something. By no means is it efficient at this wattage. Like, it's going to do way better with a little bit more juice. And that's just typical of the expectation of this APU. But I think if someone is looking to get to like make one purchase of this device, of like a handheld, whatever that handheld is, and I think a lot of people in our audience especially wanted that to be the Legion Go. But we know that the ceiling for the Z2E is pretty low, especially for like, the price that we're seeing a lot of these Z2E devices for. The thing about this device, even though it seems like it's coming in a little bit more than we had initially said in our last video as well, the point that I'm trying to make here is that when you're on the go with that battery, the 80-watt battery, you can be in that, 10 to 25-ish watt range, give yourself, 2+ hours of battery time. Then when you go home, yeah, crank up the settings, play your Borderlands 4. This is the one device where you can do all that. And where I totally get with Nelly, like I'm not a fan of the 7 inches. I'm done with the 7-inch screens is how I'm talking myself out of this. But like realistically, I have to say this because otherwise Clef is going to call me a liar for not being like an XR shill. Yeah, I got my shill shelf right back there. Like, yeah, you can plug in the glasses to these. And yes, it's another cable to plug in. But if you're already plugged into mains, like I would assume that you're already like conscious about where that cable is coming from. So what is the big deal if another cable is like running up to your eyes? You know what I mean? So
But of all the devices, no, actually, I will not call you. I'm 100% in agreement. But of all the devices, that's one of the devices where it's going to make more sense. Because, like, for example, if you plug it on a phone, if you plug it on a tablet, it's that one USB-C. And XR glasses do not have charging pass-through. At least I have never seen one that do. So whereas here, you have two USB-Cs. You still have your DC barrel jack to be able to power, or that cable that you can slap on the back. Dang, that's naughty. Anyways, you can do all those things, with that GPD Win5. So no, XR glasses would definitely alleviate that issue. And much like you guys, I don't mind the size actually. What I mind is just knowing where that panel comes from and having seen panels like what is on the go, just the vibrancy of colors, and it looks better to me. I don't necessarily want OLED, but I kind of wish it would have been a different panel. But anyways. I'm
You know what?
sorry.
We might be able to change that at some point because without the battery in there, if you take apart that back, it's going to be a lot easier to make any modifications. Like if you need to make changes with the NVMe, anything like that, like it's going to be a lot more, let's say, user friendly in the back because you don't have to worry about
That's a good
pulling out
point.
that battery and like messing around with more things. Like there's less back there to mess around with. So if you want to change out the screen, they might make that an option down the road. I wouldn't put it past like having that ability to upgrade it to maybe a 7-inch OLED.
I'm really
Oh
glad that
yeah,
you
absolutely.
actually. Sorry,
Um,
I'm gonna
sorry.
cut you off here. I'm actually really glad that Nelly brought that up about storage. One thing I will say that I had forgot to say earlier was that this is also the one device where we might actually see something like exceeding like 10 terabytes of storage in a handheld, right?
Mhm.
Because this thing has a 2280 SSD. It has the mini SSD, which they're starting with 1 terabyte as a side, and it also has micro SD slot, right?
Yep.
So you can get
Mhm.
you can essentially, if you wanted to, have your huge backlog of games like all on that one device. And there's few devices that can do that, I think. So yeah,
In such a
still.
portable fashion, like few
Yes, right.
devices in that much portability.
Yep.
And then also not to mention, have you seen how big those holes are for the vents?
Mm,
For the fans.
I have
Look at those big holes.
Huge.
Huge
massive
holes. 2
holes.
fans, big holes. I love it.
Yeah, and those fans are huge too. I mean, those look like laptop like full size laptop fans in these, not these itty bitty little things.
So
Plus,
you're
like
saying those
4 or
fans?
5 heat pipes going to that one chip. I mean, it's basically a laptop cooler in there. This isn't, like your little, itty bitty little, handheld coolers that we've been using up to this point. So, absolutely. And the other thing to your point was I don't know if you've seen I think it was on Billy Billy. I'm trying to remember where I seen it. There was a teardown video, and it looks incredibly easy to just take
Oh, I'm gonna
every
have to
last
look at
little bit
that.
of this thing apart
Yeah, I
and
haven't
put it
seen
back
it
together.
either.
I mean, it's almost like just color by numbers or, putting a puzzle together. Like this is probably
Nice.
gonna be one of the easiest things I think to mod, repair, whatever. I mean, it seems super well thought out.
When are you putting in your
Yeah.
pre-order, Zach? That's what you haven't told the audience yet.
Well, it depends on how soon I get $1,448 together, which I think is the one thing we haven't talked about yet, is the price. So, yeah, so for the 385 with 32 and a terabyte, I mean that's the one I'm going for. I haven't shut up about the 385 since I've heard about it. Yeah, so the Indiegogo price is going to be $1,448, $1,600 once, the campaign's over. And then we bump up to the 395 with 32 and 2 terabytes for $1,650 Indiegogo, $1,850 after the campaign. And then a 395 with 64 and 4 is $2,120, an eye-watering $2,120 with 2268 retail. So yeah, I mean, what do we think about those numbers? I mean, is there one in particular you're maybe going for, like low, middle, high, or
You said I'd buy it.
yeah, it's
It
all
doesn't matter
three
at
of them.
this
We're gonna
point.
buy all 3 of them.
Well, but wait, you're going for which one, Nelly?
I'll probably go for the 64 minimum, like at this point, for 64 gigs
So
instead of 32.
wait, Nelly. Does this mean you're gonna back this and
I'll probably
the
back both.
Supermax?
I might back
Oh
both.
my
We'll
goodness!
see.
Wow.
You know what?
Okay.
Maybe I'll do 30. I don't know. 30. Do I want 32?
Dang.
Do I want
Okay.
32 or 64? We'll
Okay.
see.
Okay. So can I share some inputs and maybe that'll
Yeah.
change your mind?
Yeah.
Because the way that I look at this, especially because you don't have the keyboard behind the screen, and like, especially for us, right? I know that's not necessarily everybody's situation, but for people that have multiple of those handhelds, I know this is the one that would be the most logical to make it like your main PC because it's such a beast. But if you really buy it for games primarily, the keyboard doesn't really matter. Why? Because we'll install that full screen Xbox OS. And all of a sudden, you don't really need that keyboard all that much, right? Because as Fox said, with the update that we just got with Windows, and that is not pertaining to Xbox Ally X, is just a new update. Controllers are now first class citizens. So you're able to input like your pin on your controller. You can fully navigate your operating system to some, well, I would assume you're probably going to hit some bump, but for the most part, you can do all of it. So with that in mind, 32 gigabytes is perfectly fine for gaming. If you're going 64, it's because you will be making this a desktop alternative where you'll edit, where you'll do just everything beyond only gaming, which you might, Nelly. But for those who are watching, if you really only are going for gaming, I think the question is going to be, are you going 385? Are you going 395? And I don't know for you guys. I'm bad for consumers' voice, but I'm great for companies. I'm the kind of guy that if they have a deluxe edition on a game, I'm like, I gotta go with them. So I see those accessories, right? That mini SSD and that dock, and I'm like, it looks kind of nice. I can test the new medium and stuff like that. I'm a sucker for these things. So I'm here thinking, well, I think I'd go 385, but I'd want an SSD. And I'm like, well, okay, for 100 more, you have the same storage and then you have the 395. Oh, what do I
You
do?
got to get the 395.
I feel like it would be more logical, right? Because
Yeah.
even though there is that Billy video that shows both 385 and 395, there are instances where the 385 will beat the 395, especially in that kind of twilight zone between too low TDP and super high. So yeah, I'm so on the fence. I'm not decided, but I feel like the 64 would be overkill, at least in my use case.
Yeah. I'll definitely get the 395. Let's put that. It's definitely going to be a 395
Power.
because I want that power.
I hear you.
I'm cool personally taking the, what would that be? $200. That'd be about 15% for that 10% power loss. Yeah, I'll save the money a little bit. I got a 2 terabyte 2280 laying around that I can slap in this. So yeah, I think I'm still sitting in the 385 camp. We're gonna get in entry level and get as much bang for the buck, so to speak. I'm gonna go the value route. You set on one yet, GG? What do you got? You on the?
Yeah,
on,
I got nothing. I'm not.
You gotta buy one.
I mean, if I had the cash lying around, yeah, I would. So I'm
Which
actually
one?
gonna go. Which one? So yeah, you all made great arguments, especially Clef, who gave us a really nice definition of what a shill is, and usually I'm called that. So like, yeah, I mean, I totally get that argument. I would say if you want all the power, yeah, you obviously need the 395, right? There is a caveat in that if there's anything that this device is missing, and I'm sure this is at the back of Nelly's mind, or it's at the front of Nelly's mind, it's that it doesn't have Oculink, right? It doesn't have Thunderbolt 5 USB 4 version 2. I'm thinking it's because the chip is not capable of it. Realistically, based on the teardown video of Billy, I think that maybe the SSD fan placement, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, the SSD is actually under one of the fans or under the heatsink, so it might limit the ability to like put in an Oculink port in there. But here's the thing: as long as it's not some kind of physical limitation like that, it's very possible to do that in this device compared to previous devices because of that mini SSD. right?
Oh, because
The
you're
mini,
going through lanes.
right? So the mini SSD, you know,
Mm.
we're still getting about like 3,500 megabits per second. So that's going to be more than enough to boot your games and run your games. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be like,
Mhm.
you know, the clown show, which was like attaching an eGPU to a Steam Deck, whereby you're running the OS off the micro SD. Like that's a literal clown show, right? But I mean, so this thing can do that, and we've seen before that the GPD community will do that. Like on the first WinMax 2 or the second WinMax 2, like they added the Oculink port to that.
Yep.
So, you know, it's possible is what I would say. So again, being that future proofing, that future forward, this device does have that potential. And I think that's really great. And I mentioned earlier that, you know, this can be like your one device to replace all your other devices, at least for the foreseeable future. You know, I'm sure we got people out there who are willing to only buy the one device, and they want a substantial upgrade over, you know, what their Ally was. And this is, or their Legion Go, and this is going to be it. So, I mean, kind of going back to like what that value is, I think it is a hard sell. If you want, they've priced it very well in terms of the 385 to the base 395. I think they've priced those very well, because you do have to make that conscious decision of whether you want that. I would say if you're thinking you're going to keep this device longer term, as in more than the next 2 years, you probably got to go with the 395. If you're thinking maybe that's not as important to you and you're okay with it, like saving the money up front, then just go with the 385. You could always attach an eGPU to it through USB 4. You're not going to get as much, but you know, we still see that you still get a lot more performance, right? You just, in this case though, because of how performant the 385 and 395 are, you're going to have like a pretty powerful desktop GPU, or you know, a smaller form factor eGPU that's like attached to it. Or otherwise you're just like, you know, wasting money basically.
So not the 1X GPU Lite.
Nelly,
It's okay.
Nelly,
We
don't
won't go
talk
there.
about don't.
We won't go there.
No, it's a Razer Chroma Core X.
Well, talking
the-
about that,
Is that the eGPU enclosure you're trying to offload? There, GG.
Well, no, not
The
in
Chroma.
not in this stream, but if people are interested in the marketplace that we do have on our Discord, yes, by all means, come and check out, you know, what we got. Otherwise, you can always come on and ask, you know, Zach whether he has officially pre-ordered the 385, and you know, let him convince you of which one you're going to pre-order there on the Discord too.
Yep, that's what we call setting them up and knocking them down. I'm
What were
glad
you
you
saying?
were.
Tell us, Clef, about.
Glad you were picking up what I was putting down there.
Yes, Clef, tell us about this.
because you guys mentioned the Razer Chroma, and you know, USB 4, sure, and Thunderbolt not 5, or not having rather, the TB5. I am currently in the process of testing the Razer Chroma X, which is the first version, and the V2 that has Thunderbolt 5. And I was expecting, and I can't say that it's going to be in every scenarios yet, and I have more test runs before I have like tangible numbers that I can share with the people out there. But using a TB5 enclosure has netted me higher performance on a USB 4 host device, because you're capping that bandwidth in a way that USB 4 on both ends just does not seem to hit. So, you know, that's another upgrade route. If you already have a GPU and you have a TB4 enclosure, maybe just upgrading your enclosure down the road will net you more benefit, and ultimately can give you more power on the GPD Win5. And those enclosures give you up to 140 watts. So we might be able to fully power that GPD Win5 through the USB-C, as Fox said. But I do want to like quickly brush over what we just talked about with price and everything, and the reason why I'm not convinced yet. With everything that we know with the battery and all, I feel more inclined to get one because, yes, indeed, like Nelly said, which I totally agree, Nelly, I would get this thing knowing that I would always be strapped to power, because it's going to be so much lighter, so much more comfortable. And it's a compromise that, you know, I'm kind of warming up more and more to. But then, not to be a broken record, but then I'm going back and being like, well, if you're going to compromise, why don't you just take a Red Magic Astra and streamline. But it's true though. Like if you have the rig, the PC rig to do it, I'm like, okay, but why would I need a GPD Win5? To have a portable controller that has a screen on it, it's hard.
All right, cut the feed. Cut the feed. No,
But,
no.
But I'm warming up so much to it. I'm just like, is it 15 to 1700 warm enough? I don't know.
I think to your point, like just jumping off of that, Clev, it's a fair point. It might be like niche, especially already within this handheld niche. But I'm sure there's some people in our audiences, and I say that because I read each and every one of your comments. There's at least some people out there who have desktop PCs who are looking to replace them or to somehow like complement them in some way, right? And dropping $1,700-$1,800 on this device, unfortunately, is not complementary to that. It's separating, it's segregating the devices, right? The exception to that is maybe what Clef said, right? Like you already have a GPU, so you end up selling your desktop, keeping the GPU, or let's say donating your desktop or whatever, keeping the GPU, something like that, and then just having this thing set up as like a desktop replacement with a Thunderbolt 5 or whatever other enclosure, and that would kind of make sense as this kind of all-in-one like complete replacement. For those people though, which as I mentioned, are like kind of within a niche in a niche, and that's where I fall into this category, and Clef is definitely in that category too. We have pretty powerful desktop PCs already, and in that context, yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to drop this kind of money. Is I think what you're trying to get at,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're always in an area where there's like connectivity, right? It doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, there's going to be exceptions, like you're on an airplane or something like that, yeah, and you can't do this, right? But I also kind of feel like we're at the stage in like handheld advancements and stuff like that. Clef was talking about the Astra, or if you're talking about like the Legion Y700, there's plenty of things you can play on those devices.
Yeah, with Game Hub.
Yeah, with Game Hub, even just like an offline Android game or like emulators or whatever. Like, I get it. Like, I've always played with the idea, and I've always kind of like fantasized about this idea of always like, being able to play some AAA game wherever I want to. But unfortunately, like family life and like kids and stuff don't really allow me to do that anyway. So it's like that's not realistic. So I have to like kind of put that off and be more realistic about like, what's possible. All right, rant over for me.
It ran over. Yeah, I mean, jumping off of both of those points, yeah, I mean, I guess really before we cut out of here, I guess the question is, who really should, buy this? I mean, besides me, like, we talk about specific niche use cases. Like, I know me personally, I have mentioned before, that streaming is an option. Yes. I know I've kind of cooled off the idea a little bit just because I've frequently found myself in situations where my connectivity isn't always the greatest. So for me personally, I would love to have something that is just full power, freaking go, native, right in my hand wherever I'm going, right? And I play a lot of, Atlas, Persona, Metaphor, all these turn-based, games, and it's all about menus this, menus that, and especially the Atlas ones. Like, if you try to, upscale, it always seems to be where, like, there's all these tricks you can fix it, but it always just never seems to look right. Say if you're scaling from 720 to 1080 or, whatever math you want to do there, right? It just, everything just looks kind of off, right? So I personally need like this much power, in this device, even if it's just for all these menus, which I mean, that's what those games are anyway. It's like a menu simulator or whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, that's a huge selling point for those games. Like, that's like, especially Metaphor, like that was one thing is like, oh my gosh, these menus are beautiful, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just fun to, just click through menus just because they look so good. Right. So, I mean, I need as much power as I can get, which 1080 obviously is fine at the small screen size for me personally, right? But I haven't been able to hit 60, with my, well, now Legion Go, but before that, my ROG Ally. Like, I can't hit 60 in Expedition 33 or Metaphor or any of these newer games that are coming out, especially anything running off a UE5. But this is going to definitely hit that for me, especially when I'm in these scenarios more often than not, where, I can't say stream it to my phone or a tablet because 5G is maybe crap, where I'm at, or maybe I just need a new phone carrier. I'm not sure which, but that's another discussion for another time. But yeah, I mean, I guess going off of that, I'll ask you first, Clef, like, is there somebody who should or maybe who shouldn't buy any of these models, or if there's a specific use case, say, for the 385 versus the 395, or the 32 to the 64?
Um, well, uh, we talk about a lot of different options and models, and ultimately, whatever you, the viewer, want is what you should get. As taking into consideration that you have the dispensable income to get that, treat yourself to something nice. With that in mind, I do think 64 is definitely, if you want to make it a desktop alternative, if you want to, and you should probably get the dock as well if you're getting 64. Like 64 without the dock is kind of but if it's really gaming first and foremost with a little off the side uh productivity kind of thing, in my opinion, 32 is more than enough. And we're not getting past 1080p. Maybe if you dock it, like if you dock it a lot and you intend to do 4K, yeah, maybe that 64 is going to come in handy in very, very, very few scenarios. And I'm talking gaming specifically. But otherwise, it shouldn't be necessary. When it comes to 385 and 395, what we've seen so far seems to be very close. But I am like Nelly in that regard. Usually, when I buy something, it's because I want power. I want the maximum experience. So the more I think about it, the more I'm here thinking if I do get one, it would only make sense that I get the 395. Who is this for? Look, if you have handhelds, PCs, and you've been craving an upgrade. Truly, that's the only one we've got, like a true power upgrade in the last like 3 years. It's so substantial. Um, like the closest to that was when we got the 6800U. So it's been a minute. It's a really, really good power jump. So that's going to be very interesting. Um, and I think that should be the main customer interested in this. But at the end of the day, if you're after a great looking panel, then maybe the go-to makes more sense for you. You were talking about menus, which I agree with you. You're gonna hit 1080, 60, and with the use of lossless scaling, you're pretty much always going to cap that panel 180, 120 hertz. So that's awesome to have on a GPD Win5. But we're talking menus. To your example, an 8.8-inch screen would do probably better than running that at native resolution. So it all comes down to what you want, what you need. Yeah, I'm on the fence, but before I pass on to my other co-hosts, I want to say once more, GPD, great job. Great job. You're paving the way for enthusiasts like us. So, there's credit there, and I'm excited to hear more about it or to have one of my own. We'll see. That's what I gotta say.
All right, Nelly. I'll ask you because I know you keep saying you want this 64. So I gotta know. I mean, I'm guessing this is desktop replacement. Like, what are you using this for to where you just want top of the line spec?
When I think about games and where they're at today, like if you look at Borderlands 4 on the Steam store page and you scroll all the way down to the bottom to those system requirements, at minimum, it's telling you need 16 gigs on your system at minimum. At recommended, it's telling you need 32 gigs. That's at recommended. So that's where we're kind of at right now for AAA games, is like recommended 32 gigs. I don't want something that's just good for right now. I want something that's good for next year, maybe the year after. I mean, keeping a device for 2 years, that's probably right around where I usually am with a device before I flip it and turn it around, depending if I have multiples. When I got the Ally X, I got rid of my Legion Go because it didn't make sense to have 2 Z1E devices, but I'm gonna keep the one with the bigger RAM. Like, just having that bigger RAM to me makes sense, especially, like, am I gonna spend $300 more, let's say, I don't remember what the price difference is, but $300 more for a 64 gig right now? Or am I going to spend another 2 grand in 2 months, 3 months because I'm like, I should have bought the one with 64. This 32 is not enough. Not maybe not that soon, but like, like long term, I'm like, this will last me longer for what we're seeing games go to for the longevity. So that's where my mind goes of like, if it's just a little bit more, you know, I'll spend less now than I will when I go to fix my mistake. It's like, I don't know if you've ever bought a vehicle and you're like, oh, I should have got that higher end one. And then you go and you trade it in, you take a big loss on your car, and then you get the one that you want. And you're like, I should have just got this from the start. I would have saved so much money. And anyways, that's happened to me. And I've learned my lesson. Just go for what you want and get it right off the bat. Like just go for it.
Yeah,
Anyways.
that's a really interesting point. I mean, I didn't even think about that. Like, games are definitely getting more like RAM intensive and VRAM as well, especially with the shared memory. Like, I don't know. I might have to see if I got an extra
Zach's like, you sold me.
$650,
I gotta get
$700 laying around. I don't know. It's just like another
sell the Legion Go.
50% on the price, though. It's just like, oh, I don't know.
Sell
But
the Legion Go.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah. What about you, Gigi? I mean, who should buy this? Who shouldn't?
Oh,
Should anybody buy it?
Oh man, you guys said all the good stuff already. Um, okay, so here's what else. I'm gonna play all the sides here, all the remaining sides here. So first,
That way you always come out on top.
yes, exactly. Well, to Nelly's point, first I'll say yeah. More RAM, bigger holes. What more can you ask for?
That's right. Ram those bigger holes.
Yeah, exactly. But like, to her point, just dovetailing off of her point, I think it's very valid. We've seen this in the desktop space especially, and I've ranted about this a couple of times already, talking about like Indiana Jones and how an 8 gig VRAM card is not going to be able to play that game, period. Right. So if you factor in these 32 gigabyte devices that are running Windows, you allocate 8 gigs of VRAM. That means you have 24 gigs of system RAM for Windows. That's enough for now. And presumably with Xbox full screen experience, you'll also claw back some as well. But we're also getting to that point, also to what Nelly said, where 8 is not enough. And we've seen, I believe Legion Go has allowed you to do something like 12, and some Intel devices even let you go like 16 or even more, right? So assuming that you give this device 16 gigs of VRAM for its 8050S or its 8060S, that means you reserve yourself for 48 gigs of system RAM. That's actually a really nice sweet spot. And if they let you fully configure it to go like really go ham and say give it 24 gigs of VRAM, now VRAM is not an issue at all, and you have 40 gigs of system RAM. That said, it is a pretty price. We're talking like more than $400 difference from like the SKU below that, from what I'm looking at here. So you are getting the more storage as well. It's not just the RAM, but yeah, that's a pretty penny to pay. That said, as I mentioned earlier, I think they've done a really good job of pricing those things out. If you just want to get your foot in the door, like the base price, the base price unit, which is like $1,600 at retail, doesn't seem like it's that bad of an offer. You know what I mean? Especially if you do consider, like I said, you can always like expand your opportunities as a desktop replacement and performance with an eGPU. It's not going to be like, you're not going to get the full scope of it and the full breadth of it. You're probably still going to also need something like at least a 4070 to really make it useful because of how powerful this APU is. But you got choices there. You got lots of option. And I'm always about choices and options. And this is where I think that, yeah, if you want to go ham, you want to go more than 2 years, like Nelly said, I think that top SKU, yeah, it's a lot of money, but it kind of makes sense. right? And then if you just want to get your foot in that door, that base price also makes sense too. And yeah, I'm kind of going all over the place here because I think they've done a great job with that. The one thing I think that is a bit of a mar on GPD is that I've said this also before, and I've been vocal about this. I don't like their software. I think Motion Assistant is, sorry to the dev, it's garbage. That said, I think if you're going with the base Windows experience and however good Xbox full screen experience is at that point, you may have to look for something else to like complement it, like Handheld Companion or something like that. And here's where that other choice thing comes in with what Clef mentioned in a previous episode about choice paralysis. If you get this thing, I believe GPD has said that, you know, it's going to have Bazzite support. Bazzite on this thing, that's just going to be nuts. Like, honestly, I don't think you'll, personally, I don't think you'll really need to upgrade for like 3 years, unless it's like really a game that like is so unoptimized that you basically need a desktop in order to play it, you know? Not at the rate that we're going in this direction. So yeah, I mean, it's a good device. If I haven't sold you because I've said that I'm not going to buy one, it's because of my specific like situation, not just like financial situation, but like because of the devices and stuff like that I have, right? Had I had this kind of money like just lying around, yeah, I'd probably get it, you know. So yeah, just figure out which one you want to get. And again, hop on Discord and maybe let Zach tell you which one.
He'll sell you his old Legion
absolutely.
Go on the marketplace if you want it. He'll even
you go.
sign it for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, there you
Might
go.
be coming soon. We'll see. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, if you're not going to buy it, it's probably because you just really don't need to, or hey, you might even be waiting for that 128 gig hypothetical, still mysterious out lurking back in the waters that they've teased so far. But you got to imagine that thing's going to be nearly $3,000 at that point. But
That's too much.
hey, you're shooting for the moon, shoot for it. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these, you know, any one of these 3 SKUs that are currently coming out, and you know, maybe wait for the 4th or just wait for a whole new gen. I guess if you really don't need it, but for me, I think it's going to be a winner, one of these. But now I guess I got a little bit more to chew on which one to buy now at this point.
Sorry, Zach.
You got 48 hours.
No, it's all good. I got a couple days to think about it, so at least. So I mean, I definitely appreciate the food for thought, because I mean, I definitely was like horse blinders one way. So I mean, I'm still buying this. I gotta buy this thing. I feel like I have to. It's
so
just,
once you've backed it, and when the audience gets to see you come on again, you're going to be known as the GPD winner, right? That's
yeah. Or are we winning later, or is that win now?
It's game
Not
hub
sure
now.
which.
It's game hub now.
Stay tuned to find out. But yeah. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us here, guys. So thanks for watching. See you later.